Hello again, Lovell Hawes, a prior enlisted Marine Combat Engineer, history buff, and just going guy who does a lot of research. And today I'm going to be asking, why can't we have top-notch infrastructure? And towards that particular end, I'm going to be pointing out, it's like a lot of our allies, no one in particular has all the better infrastructure than us, but some of them are world leaders in various types of infrastructure. Why can't we get the specifications and then install them in our own country? And I know a lot of people are going to be talking about it's very expensive. Well, yeah, I know it is. But I'd look at it as we're basically making an investment. And Tim Pool, who I actually love listening to his videos, says that a man plants a tree that he will never sit under the shade of. Well, this will be one of our trees. And while we might immediately reap some benefits from it because infrastructure good, but we will not, in our lifetime, we probably won't pay it off, but it will pay enough dividends that it will be paid off in the immediate future because it actually introduces where we're more competitive on various things. It's like when it comes to the interstate highway system or the maglev trains that I brought up in a previous video, it's like when it comes to the interstate highway system, doubling their capacity and introducing maglev trains and hopefully eventually hyperloop would actually make it so that way we are able to move various items, I'm going to describe it as freight, much more efficiently. And that is something that businesses look for when it comes to getting their product from the various production facilities to the actual store shelves. Or to, say, in the case of General Motors, from the factory to the car dealership. That is things they look at when it comes to getting the product from the factory to where it can be sold. Is how well can they move these things. And in the information age, they are also looking at how easy is it for me to get telecommunications, internet, and electrical infrastructure, as well as, in a lot of cases, yes, even water, to the various facilities at my disposal. And that's exactly what something like a CEO or COO, CFO, all the COs that you can think of, and even managers of smaller places and owners of smaller factories. I could name a few companies around here. Sarah Enterprises, for example, is not a huge company. In fact, most of you have never even heard of it. But, and it's not so big that it has a CEO. It has an owner. It's very small private ownership as far as factory-based industrial jobs go. But at the same time, getting the water, the electricity, being able to get your product out of one of those factories and go and put it on getting it to the customer is a very big deal for these guys. For the people who work for them, because if you can't get your product out, or you can't get electricity in, or you can't get water in, then it's like you're not going to be able to have jobs. In some cases, water is needed to cool the parts and machines in order to continue working. And in other cases, electricity is obviously needed to keep the machines running, and being able to get the product from the production facility to the customer actually means the place is actually being productive enough to be able to hire more people. Excuse me. So, what do I mean by talking to our allies and getting better infrastructure in their specifications. Let's cite with water. Israel, where here in Buena Vista, half of our water is lost due to leaks. Not good. No wonder our water bill's so high, right? That was actually reported by Public Works to the City Council and to the City Planning Commission. Well, let's cite another country. Israel not only has a way to have an alarm system that says there is a leak, it tells them where the leak is, and they fix it immediately. Neat. Not to mention, they've also figured out how to make desalination actually work for them. They have multiple desalination plants along their Mediterranean coast. Desalination, removing salt from water for drinking purposes. And they also more efficiently irrigate, for example. They don't flood irrigate, they use what's called drip irrigation. And a country that has a desert has a hyper abundance of water, and they don't have stupid high water bills. Why don't we study what they do and get the specifications on what they do? And okay, let's make it easy. Since Israel still has countries on all around them that probably wish they wouldn't exist, let's make a deal to give them a few, make it so that way they can make a couple more battalions of Merkava tanks. Or make it so that way they can actually equip a few divisions of Israeli soldiers with their Tavor rifle. Okay, so let's make a deal and get those specifications and install those specifications in cities and towns all over the country. And where they're close to the coast, like, say, Virginia Beach happens to be right there next to the Atlantic, use desalination there. And make it so that way Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Newport News, maybe even as far in as, say, Williamsburg or even Richmond, would be able to benefit from the desalination process. So, and do the same. Go down the list of countries. Yeah, it's like Japan would be great for telecommunications and internet. Find out what they want or need. Get the specifications on that. Install it here. Germany, we already modeled our interstate highway system after the Autobahn, but we didn't model it to their exact specifications. And the Autobahn is still better than our own interstate, even though the Autobahn is older. So find out what they do differently and install it into our own interstate. And doing these things, granted, are going to be very expensive, but again, a man plants a tree knowing he will never sit under the shade of it. So, let's plant this tree knowing that generations long after our bones have turned to dust will enjoy it. If you do infrastructure right, it will last long after you're gone. Prime example, Napoleon did such a good job when he was Emperor of France with infrastructure that France is still using some of the infrastructure that he had installed. And to put that in perspective, he was the Frenchman that we bought the Louisiana Purchase from. Yes, that long ago. 200 years ago. And that infrastructure is still working well. If we do it right here, we might not have to worry about it again in our lifetime. And our children, grandchildren, and maybe even our great-grandchildren might not have to worry about it in their lifetime either. But we need to make the correct moves sooner rather than later. It's easier to maintain it when the infrastructure is still usable, because you can still use the interstate highway system and the existing rail system to actually improve upon the electrical infrastructure in, say, Kansas. And by virtue of making all of these deals and getting the best infrastructure, period, then you can actually make our infrastructure overall the best. And that would make the question of how am I going to get my product from my factory to the shelves a lot easier. How am I going to get, say you want to go take a trip, how am I going to get from point A to point B? Say you're going from one of my vacation destinations here in the States, say from here in Buena Vista to Patriots Point, South Carolina, so that way I can go see aircraft carrier Yorktown and the destroyer Laffey. And I forget the name of the submarine, but I'd love to see that submarine too. Or how am I going to effectively get to, say I do want to go to Arizona one day, say, how am I going to go over there? Well, maglev trains, passenger freight, and air travel makes it so that way I've got a few options. And if I just feel like driving myself across the country, well, I can do that too, because the interstates will be in good enough shape that it'll make a pleasant ride. If you do these things now while our infrastructure is still operational, then it will be easier than restoring crumbled infrastructure later. Do it now, do it right, then you don't have to worry about it again. And that's a lot of what some of my videos are about. Do it right, do it now, don't have to worry about it later. At the end of the day, while a lot of my solutions are a little out of the box, in fact, a lot out of the box, some days I don't even know there is a box, they aren't really that hard. So, a lot of these are, why can't we do them? So, this is going to be another part of my infrastructure, and I do have a few more off the wall, outside the box infrastructure ideas, and I'm going to be sharing them as the more videos come along. And again, when I start making playlists, as I've been talking about recently, I'm going to put this under infrastructure, and I'm going to be putting that with why can't the environmentalists agree with the energy independence people. So, when it comes down to that, I'm going to be putting them into these various ones, and I'm going to be putting it with the maglev video. And so that way you can actually start to focus on a particular topic that I like to talk about a lot. And there's going to be ones that, of course, being a priorless Marine, I'm going to be talking about a lot of these things. And I actually think there's going to be quite a bit to discuss as far as military operations and military capability going forward. And some of them I might just have to put under miscellaneous simply because of the fact that they go from one topic to another. But I've been Lovell Hawes. You guys have been awesome. I hope you continue to have a good day, people.